Hey, Shark fans, it's Melinda with another episode of Heard It on the Shark. And today in the studio, I have with me Miss Georgia Kate Connor, who has gone to New York to live out her dreams. And Georgia Kate, thank you so much for being in the studio today with me.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Now, Georgia Kate, first of all, I have to ask you how old you are.
I'm 24.
You're 24 years old, and you went to Mississippi State, did you?
I did. I graduated there in December.
Okay.
Of this,
You're a
this
recent
past
graduate.
Yes.
And you got a degree in what?
Marketing with a minor in management.
Okay, and so you went to New York with your degree?
I went to New York. What I'm currently doing is not with my degree. So that's something when I graduated, I never in a million years would have imagined that. But no, I'm actually not using my degree right now.
All right, let's talk about what caused you to want to move to New York City, because living in Mississippi, there's not very many people that will just pick up and move to New York like you've done. So I wanted you to tell us about your dream of moving to and living in New York.
Okay. So in 8th grade, that was the first time I visited New York City. And I absolutely fell in love with the big lights and the huge skyscrapers, and just going around every corner, there was something new, so much opportunity there. And I think that's what really caught my eyes. I was like, you could literally do anything you want to do here. And coming from the small town of Ripley, Mississippi, which I love, but I just knew I wanted to get out and see other things. And that's what I just knew I wanted to do. And it sounds cliche to say, you know, I've been dreaming of it since I was in the 8th grade, but all through high school, I knew I was going to go to New York at some point. All through college, I knew I was going to go to New York at some point. And so when I graduated in December of 2019, I knew I was going to go to New York when I was looking for a job. And so I moved there this past August. So just coming from Ripley, I knew the small city. I was always drawn to that when I traveled, was living in a big city. And I didn't know for how long I wanted to live there, but I just knew maybe just a year or so. And now it's been 6 months that I've been living in the city, and I love it.
So how did the opportunity even arise?
So I graduated in December. January, I started, well, even before graduating, I started job searching and applying for so many jobs. And I was in a sorority at Mississippi State. And through our alumni association, they reached out of an opportunity. I guess I got an email. It just popped up, and I had been searching for a job. And this popped up that they were needing a nanny. A family was needing a nanny in NYC. And I saw NYC, and I was like, well, I want to go there. So I opened the email and read it very thoroughly, and I contacted the family. And it just kind of came about in that way. So I kind of felt like it was a sign. And, of course, I'm a religious person, so I prayed about it a lot. It wasn't just a rash decision that I automatically took that job. But I knew if I kept getting no's from other opportunities, I was like, I think this might be something. And this was right before coronavirus was coming. This like January, February. So I knew once I accepted the job and then the virus hit, it just all kind of worked out.
Now, I know you say it worked out, but there had to be some steps that you were very careful. And I like to use this opportunity on our interview show to not only let other people in the area know the wonderful things that individuals have done, but also to encourage other people to follow in their footsteps and do the same thing. So give us some of the hurdles that you had to overcome, some of the fears that you had to overcome, and maybe some things that people can, if they want to follow in your footsteps, maybe not to New York, but to their own dream city. Help us out. Give us some steps.
Okay. So, yeah, when I say it worked out, it did as far as like, okay, I have a job, and I know I have that. But as far as like we were just discussing, you're like, well, I guess you had to pack light. I had to pack for a year because I knew I was going to be there for a year. And, of course, I have my family here in Ripley, so they would send me any clothes that I needed. But learning to do that, I mean, moving to a big city by yourself, it's something, if you have that dream and that passion, that's something that's been on my heart since I was in the 8th grade. And I knew if I did not do that, I would regret that the rest of my life. And, you know, regardless if I was scared, if I was concerned, I just had a peace about it. And I knew that when this came about, or if I was moving to New York by myself, there was just a peace about it. So some of the hurdles, I mean, moving to a big city and not knowing anybody, that's a hurdle in itself. Just kind of going, not knowing anybody. I was very lucky to have one friend from Mississippi State that did the same. She got up and moved to New York. So she's been there the whole time I've been there. So I did have one friend in New York, and that's been a blessing. But you throw moving by yourself, being alone, on top of a pandemic in a huge city. It's been quite an adventure. It's been a great experience, but I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's been great, because I've been indoors probably 75% of my time in New York City. Everybody wears a mask there. It's taken very seriously there because that city was hit very hard. There are stores and restaurants that are open, but there's limits to that. And so I can't just sit around. I do get out and go for walks. I do go to different parks that are in our neighborhood just to get out and walk. But it's very empowering I guess I'd say empowering and freeing to know that you're by yourself. And that even when things are hard, you can look and say, like, I did this. This is what I've thought of for so long. And no matter if you're going to have bad days, you're going to have good days. And I've learned that every day is not good. And it's okay to have bad days. But just to have that, I guess that self-assurance that, hey, life's been hard, life's been good, but I'm here now. It's something that means a lot to yourself. And I encourage people to do that.
Now, I'm sure your mama wanted to make sure you were safe up there. Tell me about some of your safety precautions.
Oh, yes. So I actually live with the family. So I think that's been an awesome transition into the city. They tell me, you know, which ways they take to go certain places or what areas they steer clear of or maybe go through. So I've been very blessed to have that as like a safety net, or just like a family that's been through it before I have. But I'm not used to that. You know, walking around here, you pretty much know everybody and you feel safe. And I mean, there's danger and something can happen in any city. It doesn't matter where you go. So something that I learned from my friends in the city is an app. I think it's called Citizens app. So you download it, it knows your location, and it'll let you know of certain things that are around you in the area. So if there's, I guess around here, roadblocks or something that come up a good bit. But any kind of danger that's around you, it's going to make you more aware. And I knew being there by myself, I needed that to be aware of my surroundings and not be too naive of everything's fine, because in a lot of places it's not, and you just need to be aware.
And you obviously didn't drive to the city, so how you got around on foot everywhere?
Yes. So, no, I did not take my car. I flew there. I haven't taken the subways because of the virus. So that's been a huge part that I feel like I'm missing in my experience, but it's just something that's how it is, just to stay cautious. Haven't been on the subways. I've Ubered. I feel like at this point Uber should sponsor me. I've spent so much on Uber, but it's been so worth it because that's my time. You know, maybe once a week I'll get out and go midtown Manhattan to Central Park or different places like that, even Times Square. So Uber has been my main means of transportation.
Can you give me one great experience you had?
Oh, yes. There's been plenty. But I came back to Ripley for the holidays, so it was December 22nd when I got into town. But that week, it snowed in New York, and so I got to experience that. I've never been to, like, Colorado, Montana, places where you get a whole bunch of snow. I've never seen that. Especially, I'm not used to that. We're not used to that in Mississippi. And so that week, I think it snowed about a foot, and that was something, I mean, I felt like a little kid staring out the window because I was just staring at it because of these huge snowflakes, and it was a big, big snow. But I got to see that, and I went to Central Park. I Ubered to go down there just to look at the snow because it was so, so pretty, and it wasn't too cold, but it's a lot colder there. But that was a very magical experience.
So New York City has lived up to your dreams?
Yes, I think the timing is not perfect because of the pandemic. But so I tell people, I'm like, New York is not at its most beautiful right now, just because of everything that's been shut down. And I mean, you don't see the crowds that are all around. So it's through a whole different lens that I never imagined I would even see. But it's also, I try to look at the positive of it, and it's also been a very beautiful way to look at it. And I think it's been a good transition to appreciate what's there now instead of just looking for maybe like the glitz and glam that people think that's the city life.
Do you feel like you'll move back to the South?
Yes. I went, and I do think I want to live there. I would say now, which it could change. I would love to be there maybe 2 or 3 years, especially now since this has been my experience through the pandemic. I don't know if things will ever be normal, but maybe a new normal. I'd love to live through that as well. But you can't beat the South. When I came back for Christmas, I mean, first of all, the food. My family, I come from a huge family, and that's been probably the hardest part is being 1,000 miles away from them for 6 months now. So I think eventually I know I love the city. So I don't know if I was somewhere in the South, like Nashville, Birmingham, somewhere that's not too close, but it's not 1,000 miles away.
We would take you back to Ripley if you ever decided to come back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Georgia Kate, thank you so much for telling us about your trip to your visit. It's really not even a trip. It is an experience that you're having in New York. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Shark fans, you guys have a great rest of the day and go live out your dreams in 2021.